I am so excited that you are joining me for another episode. And this one is going to be a little different, although all of them have been a little different, if we're being honest, right? But this one was meant to be between me and Jalena, my best friend since high school. And it was going to be about the restoration of a friendship or reconciliation of a friendship. And I'm going to be honest with you up front, all the things, you're not going to see them. You're not going to see them. We recorded 2 conversations. It was a 2-part conversation. And I sat with the Lord. And actually today is my first day of consecration, so that's also very fitting. It's the first day of my consecration that I'm recording this, and I sat with him, and I just didn't feel that the conversation was ready to be aired. I didn't feel that we were ready for that. Let me pause here. Run it back. Okay, we're back. Let me explain something to you. The Lord told me about every conversation that I needed to have had this week, this series, like he said that. But it all stemmed from this particular conversation. He brought this conversation to my spirit, and this was the basis for the season. Okay, I stand by that. I believe that the Lord asked me to have this conversation because if you remember, for the past 2 years, maybe a little bit longer, I've been talking about a friendship breakup. It's Lee. Lee is the friendship breakup. And that has been one of the hardest things for me to experience. If you all know me, I love my friends down. We are incredibly close. We do everything together. And to be in the midst of a friendship breakup, losing my favorite person, my grandmother, then losing my mom's parents, who were also some of my favorite people, I was in one of the craziest, darkest, hardest seasons. And so it was sometimes difficult for me to function, but I have been healed. And the Lord has brought me out of that place. And I'm grateful for that in terms of this friendship. And so he laid it on my heart to have the conversation, because I've heard of so many of you also going through friendship breakups and trying to figure out, are you going to reconcile? Are you going to restore the friendship? Or is it just done? And so I sought the Lord about it. And again, he confirmed, yes, have the conversation. But here's the thing that I want to tell you. People are people. People are people. And so as much as we have good intentions and we believe that we're having a thorough conversation and we're ready for the topic, sometimes we're not as ready. And so what I realized is that while we were having the conversation, we were dancing around some of the issues. And there were some things that was still very much so fresh for her, and in an effort to protect her and to look out for her, because I care about her, I asked the Lord, and he confirmed we're going to pull him. We're going to pull him. So there's some things that I wanted to share with you, just me, and to talk about with you that I hope will give you greater perspective when it comes to restoring your friendships or reconciling your friendships. And Sean has already given us the definitions of restoration and reconciliation in episode 1. So if you missed that, I encourage you to go back and watch. But here's the thing. With Lee and I, we have spent our very formative years together, right? So we were in high school and college when I first got married, had kids, all the things. And so they see parts of you and you see parts of them, but sometimes you don't see each other. Not in totality. And so you can miss some things, and you can dismiss some things, and you can overlook some things. And so that happened, right? And so I was hurt. And I believe that she was hurt, and we had to figure it out when we're also 2 very different personalities. Okay, we're very, very different personalities. I am very much so an ambivert. That means that I can be very social when I need to be, but I'm actually very introverted. She is just introverted, and she is very introverted. And so it can sometimes be difficult to communicate certain things because she'll pull back, or because I'll pull back, or I'll do too much, right? And so that happens. And so the communication was not where it needed to be. And we're still working on that even now. We are not where we were. And that's hard. It's a very hard thing. But she and I have chosen to trust God in this process. And we've chosen to turn our friendship over to God. And whatever he decides and how he decides it is good for us. It's good for us. And it took time to get there, right? Because we had this thought like, okay, it's going to be this or it's going to be nothing. Or at least that's how I thought. Let me speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for her. I'm going to speak for myself. It has to go back to what it was, or it's nothing. And that was selfish. It was entitled. It was arrogant. And it was faulty because it's not even what the Lord wanted. And here's why. I believe that in the friendship, it had become a form of idolization. I think that we idolized each other in different ways. I think that I looked to be her savior in many ways. Like I wanted to be the one that she could always depend on, to have the answers, to make a way, all of the things. I liked being needed. I liked being the one who was always available. That is dangerous, y'all. That is dangerous. And so if you're that friend in the relationship, I caution you and I admonish you, be very careful, because you cannot take the place of God. You cannot be the end all be all for anyone. And it is really, really dangerous, because when you get tired of it, it's too late. It's too late. You have set a precedent with them and they have a reasonable expectation that you will continue. I hope you hear what I'm saying. So be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful. We have to always build our friendships on Christ. And out of probably all of my friendships, while we are both church girls in every way and we have strong relationships with God, now looking back, I realize that this is probably one of the very few friendships that was not built on my relationship with Christ. It was built on our friendship alone, because we were young when we met. We were young. We met when she was in 9th grade and I was in 10th grade. We built our friendship off of us and how well we clicked. Now, do I believe that God brought us together? Yes, but it wasn't our focal point. And that happens a lot, right? When you have younger friendships, that happens a lot because you're not thinking about that. You in high school, you just trying to make it out. You're not thinking about, is this pleasing to God? Did God bring us together? What does God want us to do through this friendship? That's not the case. You don't often think about that when you have, again, friendships that happened in your younger or more formative years. That's what happened to us. And as I progressed in my relationship and my devotion to God, it got hard. It got hard. Because while we're both believers and we absolutely always talked about Christ as we got older, where we were seeking Christ on what to do, we were seeking Christ on what to do in the plans we had already made. We had plenty of plans for our future. We knew exactly who we were going to be, what our friendship was going to look like, how it would play out. So we sought him on those plans. We didn't seek him on his plans. And that's where we derailed, because the Lord is taking me in a crazy, crazy, crazy direction that I don't even have words for. I'm living a life I never anticipated living. Let me tell y'all something. I didn't plan to be married. I didn't plan to have children. I have always been and desired to be a corporate girly. I wanted to live in the city. I wanted to make my money, and I wanted to be rich auntie vibes. That was my goal, right? Lee was the opposite. Lee was the opposite. Lee is brilliant. Lee has wanted to always help people. Always, always. Even one of her first aspirations was to be a doctor. Like, she has always wanted to help others, okay? And actually, it's funny because I wanted to be a neurosurgeon when I was younger. But she has always been very family oriented, very much so wanted to be married, to have children, all the things. And we went in different directions. And instead of consulting God about what he wanted in the divergence from our plan, we tried to force him into our plan. As I've developed Hey Pretty and sat with the Lord about it, I also had to be humbled. I had to be stripped. I had to realize, hey, this is a whole lot more than just a hobby. And the people around you, they have to understand the call that is on your life. I believe that Lee understands the call on my life. I absolutely 1000% do. But I also believe that in my calling, she also had to realize that hers was not necessarily the same. It wasn't the same. And that's okay. It's okay. But it was hard because, again, our lives were so enmeshed with one another that having to separate some things out was very difficult and very hard. And it left us feeling as though the other wasn't showing up, right? Even though we were trying to show up in the best way that we could in that moment, we also weren't communicating very well. And so here's some things that I want to share with you that I hope that you will take note of. When you have friendships that have started when you were younger, do assessment often. It is required. Assess your friendship. I ask my friends all the time, hey, how can I show up for you? How are you doing? What do you need? But with Lee, because we had been friends for so long, I did not ask as often. And I wasn't as consistent or persistent in waiting for a response, because we were so used to each other that we became overly familiar with one another. It's the same way with God. Sometimes we'll become so familiar with God that we will begin to answer for him. Because, oh, I know that he likes that, or I've done this before and this was good, so this is what he wants, this is what he's going to say, this is how he's going to lead me. Instead of asking God the questions and waiting for a response, it's a new day, which means that it's also a new season. I'm sorry, my daughter is calling me. Hold on one second, y'all. Pause, one sec. Hi, baby. Look. You say hi?
Hi.
I'm recording. What's going on?
Good morning, Mom.
Good morning, baby.
What are you doing?
I'm recording. Can I call you right back?
Yeah.
Okay, I love you.
Love you.
Bye. You want to say bye to the camera?
Bye.
Bye, boop the butt.
Bye-bye.
Okay. It's the same way. We get overly familiar with him and we begin to respond for him. I was doing the same thing to Lee. Lee was doing the same thing for me. We were assuming where the other person was, instead of me doing what I do in all of my other friendships and saying, hey, where are you? How can I show up? What do you need? How can I support you? How can I love on you? I wasn't doing that because I assumed that I knew what she needed. Okay? Don't do that. Do assessment often. Do it often. If you also have friendships that are very long term, make sure that you are talking about your individual goals as well as your friendship goals, because those can be different. Because you're individual people and your friendship is what brings you together. Talk about each other's goals and how they may be different from where they were last year or even last month. It's important because it will also help you to hear the heart of the other person. I am full-time immersed in what God is calling me to do. Even though I work a full 9 to 5, I have a family, my hubs, my children's, all the things. I am in leadership at church, like all the things. I have all of these things on my plate. I am pulled in 1,000 directions all the time. And sometimes if you don't talk to me on a regular basis, you won't know that. It'll look like I've disappeared, right? When really I'm always in the same spot doing the same things. And so again, we have to talk about those goals. We have to talk about the assignments that are currently being fostered and facilitated by us. It's important because it would have helped me to understand where Lee was and what Lee was trying to work on and do, and where she needed support, cheering, celebrating, or a recalibration. Like, girl, wait, hold on, pause. And the same with me. Like, girl, what you doing? You don't have to do that. Put that down. That's not for you in this season. You have to have the talks about the goals, okay? I also want to encourage you to seek the Lord on what type of friend you are meant to be. Seek the Lord on what type of friend you are meant to be. I am 1,000% a girl's girl. I am a friend's friend. That is who I am. 1,000%. And I love that about me. But it also means that I have a lot of friends. And I love it for me. But sometimes some of my friends may feel overlooked. They may feel like, oh my God, you're always going over here and do this. You're always showing up and doing this, and you're always... When you ask the Lord who you're supposed to be, he'll also tell you who you're supposed to be to them. Because some of our friends require different parts of us. My safe space, she and I don't have but 2 pictures together. We don't go in the same circles, all the things. But when I tell you, she and I know, hey, we need to lock in, we need to sit, we need to talk, we need to debrief, we need to detox. And then we're good. We don't talk every day. We don't even text every week. But truly, when I call her my safe space, and she knows who she is, this is us, right? And, you know, maybe one day I'll be able to bring her on the show, on the podcast. Maybe I'll be able to do that, and then you guys will get to see her. But that's the thing. I asked the Lord how to show up for her. What does she need? And I believe that she consistently asks the Lord about how she can show up for me. That is the difference between being a mature friend and being an early friend. Lee and I were early friends. We were not mature friends. Our conversations did not mature or develop over time. They were very much so cyclical. Like they go in cycles, because it's how it is. Again, when you're friends with someone middle school, high school, and whatever, if you're not intentional about it, it will show. Your relationship will not mature at the rate that you're maturing individually. And it wasn't fair to Lee, and it wasn't fair to me, right? Like, we realized after the fact, like, hey, we weren't fully communicating about things because we were assuming the things. We were maturing in our private lives, but we weren't necessarily bringing it to this space because this is what was familiar, this was what was comfortable for us. And so we were also not asking the Lord how we were supposed to show up for each other in this season, because we also didn't know the goals of each other, and we were operating in silos, and that's dangerous. Ask the Lord what friend you're supposed to be and to whom. I also want you to do this. When you are accelerating in certain seasons, remember to check on those around you. Remember. Because they've seen you when you were stagnant. They've seen you when you had to work really, really hard, and you are still working really hard. They've seen you when you had to cry. They've seen you when you've been disappointed. They've seen all the things. Don't forget people when you start to pick up your pace. Don't forget. Don't forget. And it's not purposeful. You're not intending to harm anyone. You're not intending to overlook anyone. But sometimes, as our pace is picked up largely by God, we can forget the people that we're meant to do life with. Be mindful. Be mindful. Just as much as I tell y'all to take your time with God, take your time with your friends. See them, hear them, love on them. As your pace is picked up, check their pace. Where are they at? What do they have going on? Is this the right season for them too, or no? Because sometimes they are in a rest season when you're in an acceleration season, and you have to honor that. You have to honor that. It's okay. And sometimes you're accelerating at the same time, and that's beautiful too. Take your time with your friends. The conversation with Lee was confusing in terms of, we have certain tells, we have certain things that we already know in the background, but we're not necessarily comfortable with sharing out loud. And I will also make a disclaimer. I'm more comfortable than she is, right? Because again, Lee is very, very introverted, and respecting that. But here's the thing why I'm mentioning that for you. Know how your people are. Even if they're telling you yes, make sure that you're going back over and over again. Are you sure? Because I know this about you, and I don't want you to feel compelled or obligated to say yes. I was making sure my daughter wasn't calling me again. I don't want you to feel compelled or obligated to say yes. Do I believe that the Lord told me that we were supposed to have the conversation? Yes. Do I believe that there was a reason that he saw this as the basis for this podcast season? Yes, but now I realize that it wasn't because it was about me and Lee. It was about my own season of grief, and she was a part of it. And the Lord is restoring me back to relationship with him while reconciling me to the reality that my reality will never be the same. That's why this conversation was important. It wasn't really about me and Lee, because the Lord is going to take care of however Lee and I end up, because we're not where we were. We're not even close. And that's okay. Like I said, she and I have turned our relationship, our friendship over to God. And we're trusting him to do whatever he sees best. And we will do our individual work as he calls us to do it. But this podcast, this conversation, it wasn't about what I thought it was. It wasn't. And that has blown me away, because I was so sure, like, Lord, I've healed in this area. I've got this together. And I have. But Lee is also still healing. And that's good too, because it is going to be a lifetime, because we have already spent a couple of lifetimes together. I don't know if people realize that, but we live multiple lifetimes when we go through different stages, different evolutions of ourselves. It's different lifetimes. I'm not the same person I was in high school. Lee is not the same person she was in high school. We're not the same. That was a lifetime ago. And so we trust God with this current one. And we're not forcing anything. We're not expecting anything out of it except to please and honor God, because our focus has shifted. And that's important. And that's why I'm saying go back and ask certain questions. Are you ready for this? Because it would also help you to get perspective. Are you ready? Have you fully vetted this thought? Have you asked the Lord all the questions that you need to ask? Are you going into it with the proper mindset and perspective? Because again, I thought it was for one thing, but it was actually for something completely different. He was restoring me to a relationship with him. Excuse me. And reconciling me to the reality that my life will never be the same. That's a lot, but God is good, and I'm grateful for that. And while I'm sad that I don't get to share those conversations with you, I'm really happy that I get to have this one with you, that I also get to protect what Lee and I are working on, that Lee and I get to take time and to sit with how we can become more transparent, how we can become more honest, how we can become more accountable, how we can become stronger. Because we need to do that. If we're going to have a healthy friendship moving forward, those are the things that we need. And so we got to see that after sitting down and hearing each other's hearts and realizing, oh, that's where you were. Or, oh, you're still there. Or, oh, that was your perception of what happened, even though we've had a ton of talks. Now, let me tell y'all that. We've had a lot of talks. Do not mishear that. We talked a lot, a whole lot. But sometimes you will talk and still say nothing that the other person can comprehend or process. I'm gonna give y'all something that I tell everybody in my professional life, because my job is actually communication, which is funny. Okay, so I didn't realize that it had cut off on me when I was trying to give y'all the communication tip that I give everybody that I work with, because I actually work in communication. So here's the tip. Don't talk to people the way you want to be talked to. Talk to them in the way that they can best process, because that's the way that they receive, and vice versa. You have to make sure that you are intentionally listening to the people that you're connecting with, that you're finding out the ways that they best process, that you are realizing what is required to have a meaningful and effective conversation with them. We have to take time to do that. And that was something that Lee and I were having to learn. You can't just talk to each other based off of your old history together, which I guess history is old. And you can't talk to each other based on your assumptions of one another. You have to be intentional about working to get to know the new person, their new needs, their new goals, and what it is that they're striving for as far as the intention of their conversation, so that their impact will land well, and vice versa. It is so important just to take your time in your communication. That is the biggest thing that I can give you, that it is important to take your time. Listen to listen. Don't listen to respond. Listen to listen. And that was something that we had to learn. That's something that we had to sit with. And it's something that we're still figuring out because, again, we've known each other since we were young. We've known each other since we were pretty much babes. We are so different now. We are so different. And that's okay. So we're growing in that area. So be intentional. Be intentional about listening to listen. I think that that was something that the enemy has been trying to bother me with to get to you all, because it was also a sore spot for me. Because again, I work in communication. I pride myself on really good communication, and to know that I failed in that area, or I wasn't as excellent in that area, in a place that was so important to me and so special to me, is hard. But again, this is about accountability. This is about being honest and transparent and open about areas that I still have to grow in, because you have to do the same thing for you. Whatever that area is, you've got to be open about it. And so this is also me being intentional with myself and communicating effectively with myself, with my own shortcomings, with my own needs, and with the areas that I'm actively pursuing growth in. So it's kind of the hard thing, but it's the important thing, to do the work, to be intentional with yourself, to be intentional with others, and to actually utilize those resources that you have. So again, I've been trained in this area, but I wasn't necessarily utilizing it in the way that I should have, because I assumed that this area of my life with this particular person in my life, it was a no-brainer. That's crazy. It did it again. I don't think the enemy wants y'all to know how to properly communicate. That's crazy work. It just did it again. It just did it again. But again, make sure that you're listening, that you're being intentional, that you are taking time to learn who you're talking to, especially in your friendships, that you're giving them space to share their heart, and that you are asking the clarifying questions needed to ensure that you understood exactly what they intended to say, not just going off of the impact of what they said. And so that was really important in this conversation for us, and for me, right, to really understand how she was processing, where she was processing from, how I was processing, and where I was processing from. And it really changed everything. I had so much peace during the second half of recording, because I said, this is what this is for. Okay, God, okay. I don't know what we're gonna do with this episode, but it is to hear each other's hearts. It is for me to see the bigger picture. It is for me to realize my life is forever altered. Her life is forever altered. That grief comes in so many different forms and in so many different ways. Grief comes in so many forms and so many different ways. And I didn't realize how much grief I had experienced over the past 2 to 3 years. I didn't realize that. And while I may be healed in some areas, I'm still actively healing in others. And that's good. That's good, because it shows that I'm still alive and that I'm still pursuing what the Lord has for me. And that I haven't given up hope. I haven't given up hope because I know who God is. I know who Jesus is. And I'm trusting, at the end of the day, he's going to get the glory and I will have joy. So that's really where I'm at. That's really where I'm at. But I hope, again, that the communication tips y'all get, y'all understand, that you'll put them in action, because clearly the enemy doesn't want you to have them. He doesn't want you to have them. But definitely put them into action and go love on your friends. Take your time with your friends. Assess your friend groups. If your friend groups are not going in the same directions as you, if they're not pursuing God, if you can't be your full self with them, you need to talk to the Lord about how to adjust and clean up your friendship circles. as we mature and we grow, we realize that some friendships just aren't for us, and some are. We just have to put in more work, and you need to consult the Lord about that. Is this a friendship where I'm supposed to put in more work, or is this a friendship I'm supposed to walk away from? Because there are some that we have to walk away from, and there are some that we just have to put in a little bit more work. Just a little bit more work. And that's okay. We shouldn't be lazy anyway. We should understand that the more work we put in, sometimes we'll have an even greater harvest. That should motivate us. We should want our friendships to be fruitful, to be bountiful. It's a reflection of God. It is. That He's blessed us, that He's favored us in this area, and that we are doing the work to steward it correctly according to His will and His plan. So, yeah, I think that's what we should do. That's what we should do. All good. All good. God is so good, y'all. To be able to sit here and not cry about this, to not feel emotional upheaval about this, I don't know how to explain it to you. Because I would say that although I think although it's been like a 2-year, no, it's been a 3-year active breakup. I think it's been a 3-year active breakup. It's probably been a 5-year process for me. And not probably, it has. So 5 to 6 year process for me with a 3-year active breakup. And so it was very emotional, very overwhelming, very traumatic. But I had to take accountability for my portion in the things. I have to apologize for my portion of what happened. I had to accept the Lord's forgiveness. I had to submit and humble myself before Him. I don't have all the answers. I didn't get it all right. I had to forgive Lee. I had to forgive her. And whether or not, this is something for you all, whether or not the person ever asks you for forgiveness, whether or not you feel it is, that they're being honest with their apology or anything, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Are you pleasing God with a posture of your heart? Are you truly forgiving and being forgiving? Are you putting aside those poor behaviors that you had before? Are you seeking the Lord on what you should be doing moving forward? That's what matters. That's what matters. Because I believe that it was never either of our intention to hurt one another. I believe that. I believe that we truly are sorry for our parts in what happened. But I also believe that it was necessary for us to look in the mirror at ourselves and realize, hey, you got some growing up to do. What you thought was a thing is not a thing. It was not a thing. The Lord is calling both of us higher, and He's calling you higher. Check your heart. Are you forgiving? Do you want to be forgiven? Are you seeking the Lord? Ask Him. Sit with Him. It'll make all the difference. It will make all the difference. Okay, I don't know what happened there. It cut off, but it was a perfect spot. So I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation. I hope that it's giving you some perspective. I hope that you'll go back and you'll rewatch it and you'll take some notes from it, because it was a hard conversation, but it was a necessary conversation for she and I. It wasn't necessarily something for you all. And that's okay, because this part is for you, because there was purpose in the conversation for the podcast. It is the reason this entire series, this season, I keep saying series, but this season happened. And so yeah, I felt it was important, and the Lord released me to do that. I also talked to Lee about pulling those episodes, but having this conversation instead, and she was in full support and agreement. And I want you, this is my last thing, I want you to pray over your friendships, but I also want you to pray over mine. I want you to pray for me and Lee, that the Lord continue to lead and guide us, and that we submit to wherever He directs us. Because even though this season is hard, there is going to be joy after this. And there is joy now. I command consistent joy in my life. And I hope that you will too. So be praying for us. Be asking the Lord how to cover and support us as we grow and we mature in our relationship with Him, and therefore can mature in our relationship with each other. Because friendship is the first step in discipleship. So there's that. Again, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. I hope that it gave you some greater perspective and clarity on relationships and friendships and how you should be showing up and what you should be looking for. And I'm praying that the Lord continue to direct you in how well you build your friendships. That's my prayer. That's my prayer. Okay. That's it. I'm done. I'm headed out. I have some other things that I need to do. Like I said, this is the first day of my consecration. So while my house is quiet, I'm going to spend some time with the Lord, because I need to develop that relationship with Him. So for the remainder of the year, I'm going to be in that heavy place with Him, that quiet place with Him. And I hope that He will build me there, that He'll strengthen me there. And that when I see you in February at conference, the Hey Pretty Experience in NOLA, February 27th through 28th, that you will be meeting one of the best versions of Petra that there have ever been. All right. I love y'all. Talk to you soon. Bye. Okay, so now that I have ended this conversation, I do want to share with you Lee's additions to the playlist, because she was a guest and she did have something to add to the list. And I think that it will bless you, because again, this is not a sad conversation. This is a necessary conversation, because everything that started out one way won't end that way. And so we have to be okay with that. We have to flow with that. And so again, I want to share her playlist additions with you. So if you'll hop into the clip that's coming, let's add to the Hey Pretty playlist. Okay, so I have some quick fire questions for you. It's 3 questions. You have to answer all 3 in 60 seconds. Not 60 seconds for each question, 60 seconds total.
Got it.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you the 3 questions and you answer them. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first one is, where does the Lord have you in scripture right now? Like, what's the scripture He keeps taking you back to? What is your worship song that's on repeat right now?
Mm-hmm.
And who are you? And when I say who are you, give me a word. And then you can explain it if you want to, but just, that's it, the 3 questions. What's your scripture right now? What's the worship song that you have on repeat? And who is Jalena?
Okay, so scripture, Psalms 91.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I've been. But for some reason, I'm reading Joshua, and I don't know why.
Really?
I don't, like, randomly, I've been reading that. Like, from the beginning, like, studying it.
Yeah.
I don't understand why. It's weird. Because this is the follow-up from Moses. I'm like,
It is.
I don't understand it. And so, I don't have a curated Bible study.
Yeah.
It just randomly I started reading that. But what I read every day is Psalms 91, and I pray that. Worship song on repeat, Nothing Else, J.J. Harrison. I love that. Yeah. And who is Jalena? She's still becoming. Like, and I know this is supposed to be 60 seconds, but finding, not living on the expectations of others. Just finding out and being free in that and being okay. So, yeah.
I like that. I like that. I like that. I really appreciate you coming. I appreciate you having this conversation, which I know is difficult for you to do.
You know, I do not do this.
I do. And I really appreciate you making space and allowing people to come into where we are. Where we are. I think that that's really key and special. And my hope is that you guys got something from this and this blesses you. But also that you'll ask the Lord how you can be godly friends, not just good friends, not just better friends, but godly friends, so that you don't have to experience a friendship breakup, but that you can grow together, that you don't have to be torn apart to get together, because that's not fun.
It's
not fun. It is. It's very, very good.
0 out of 10, don't recommend.
Do not. So, that being said, I hope that you will join me next week for another episode of the Hey Pretty Podcast, Season 2. Have a good night.